So today is March 29th, almost at the end of March, and looking into April and the hope of spring spreading through the country. And that means May is not too far away, and we'll have our next meeting at the next SWAT meet at the Spring Brookline in Brookline, New Hampshire. I'll just first start, I guess the meeting will sort of pick up where we left off with the photo walkthrough from our expo back on March 5th. I'd like to spend some time before we do that. First, I'll do some announcements shortly. But also, I think we'll spend some time maybe just remembering, well, sadly, sad to hear about Bill Holly's passing. You know, almost all of you guys on this call were regulars and know Bill because he was a regular on the call, and of course, a regular contributor over emails, over groups.io, and of course, a regular attendee through many of our shows, especially the big shows. So he's going to be missed in a lot of ways, but only from his technical knowledge. I mean, there are few people who know more about telegraph keys other than Tom than Bill, and his knowledge also in early radio certainly qualifies. And so, you know, we'll do, you know, if anyone wants to share their favorite story about Bill or any photos, I have a few things I can show from our radio show back on 2018, which Howard had shown the video, had supplied the video, but I could show a few stills. Before we start on that, I'll just start with any general announcements. I don't have many other than, obviously I mentioned Spring Brookline is on May 20th, I think, if my memory serves. So it's a couple of months away, but we're already starting to think about it now that we're past the big show back in March. And I did see that looking even further out ahead, I saw someone post in our groups.io that the New England Steam and Wireless Museum is having a radio swap meet on, I think, July 22nd, if I got that right, Len. So in case any of you are looking for something to do in the summer that's between our spring and fall Brookline events, and want to also go to the museum, sound like a good place to go. Did I get that right, Len?
Yeah, exactly right. Yep.
Great. I think those are the immediate ones that come to mind. Bob, did you have anything you'd like to share with the group?
Well, comment about Bill. Just to let you all know, there was, note on groups.io you could contact Bill, send him an email. And in the process of doing that, I asked John to find a picture. And the picture was a picture of me and Bill Holly. And Bill had donated a radio at one of our, I think it was 2020, the NEVEE show. And so I forwarded that picture along with my email and a few thoughts, and just saying that I really liked the email, and the thoughts from the club were with Bill at that time. I got a reply from his wife, Fran, today. She said she's going to use the picture in his obituary. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank, I don't know who took the picture. John found it, but John took the picture. So thank you, John.
Oh, my pleasure.
Like she said it was one of the best pictures of Bill that she had ever seen. Oh, and she told me that she had known him since she was 5 years old. And I think they were married for over 50 years. It might be 58. I don't remember exactly. It was a nice note from Fran.
Oh, that's great.
John? Did that picture get posted recently on groups.io?
Yes, I think, Bob, you had shared that, did you not? I can hunt. In fact,
I can show it to you now if you want to see it.
Yeah, go share it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting picture. If you look closely, Bill's wearing a string necktie. He's got a Morse code key here and a Morse code key on his belt buckle. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm in Texas now, so I know those are called bolo ties.
Bolo ties. Yeah, that's classic Bill attire.
Oh,
Hold on. It says I'm screen sharing. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
classic Bill.
That Country Bell's in nicer condition than the one I have. So,
Yeah, that
Bill,
is.
Bill liked miniature keys because they fit on his clothing.
That's awesome. That's a great,
yeah,
he's
my
also
wardrobe
wearing
is,
his
my wardrobe's not the same when I try to wear consoles around the house. It just doesn't work.
Bill is also has a couple of ARRL pins on. I don't know. So maybe he's a Diamond Club or lifetime member. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell exactly what they were.
That's great. I don't think I ever saw Bill not dressed that way. He was always one of the best dressed people
Yep.
in the place.
That's
Always
right.
dapper.
And very often with a smile too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can, if you want, I could share the photos. I could run the video as well. It does put a little bit, it's not a very long video. You could try doing it, just puts a little bit of stress on the CPU on my laptop, but I think I can pull it off.
Let me just show an early picture of Bill or two.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
then you
Oh, that'd
can
be
dig
great.
into that if you want, John.
Yeah,
just,
I can go last. I'll just go around the room. Anyone who wants to.
Yeah, okay. This is let's see if I can get it to come up here. This is a picture of Bill in his ham shack, and he had his ready use normal radio on the left, and he had this spark transmitter on the right. And the spark transmitter is really pretty neat. It's got a coil that you can see visibly there, but if you look right above his arm, you can see an electric motor. And that motor rotates a rotary spark gap. And a rotary spark gap, for those of you who might not be sparky persons, actually imparts a tone to the spark transmissions. Without it, all you hear is sort of static going, dots and dash in just static. With it, you hear sort of a raspy tone. So that's what that motor does in the background. And Bill has a number of keys in the foreground. And I have to apologize for this picture because it was taken maybe 20 years ago with a very early digital camera that wasn't very good at that point. But I thought you'd enjoy that. And
That's awesome.
here is a picture of Bill at a ham fest without his usual telegraph keys on. A fair number of years ago, I would say maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And he's looking at a very unusual key made by a German bug maker named Gerhard Schur. And as you might expect with a German key maker, Gerhard Schur was very meticulous about making his bugs. And he never sold a bug that hadn't been subjected to his Prüfen machine, which is a testing machine. And it literally was a hand-like arm that vibrated back and forth and put a bug through its paces. So if the key could continue send properly for overnight for a full 24 hours, then he would sell his bug. And he advertised that every bug has been very, very carefully tested, and it was. So Bill's looking at this, and this happens to be the Centennial bug by Gerhard Schur. So it was a very limited production. And let me see if I can just go on to
yeah. I
one
just
more
wondered, is
picture.
that a pure mechanical bug with like a vibroplex?
Yeah, it's exactly like a vibraplex, except now that Schur is dead, I can tell you that it's not as good as vibraplex. Even if he did test it,
Well,
his damper didn't really damp the vibration properly, and so you were left with it. These are two pictures that Bill Holly took of me.
Tom, could I interrupt for just a sec?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that last picture looks like it was taken at the AWA flea market.
Yeah, I think it probably was. Those are the plastic boxes on the bottom are my boxes full of telegraph keys that I used to bring in. Yeah, you're probably right. That was AWA. I can't quite read. Yeah, I guess I can read the label on Bill, the card that he's wearing. So I think you're right, Larry.
Yeah, I didn't even notice the name tag, but I think it does say AWA. But I recognize the lights in the parking lot.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Good catch.
Anyway, back to this one. Bill was very, very interested in the transatlantic cable and the history of submarine telegraph cables, and very interested in the Great Eastern, which was the ship that laid the transatlantic cable. And he convinced me to come over to his home with my scuba diving gear and go out to this beach, which is in Rye, New Hampshire. And as you can see in the sign in the upper left, this is where an Atlantic cable station was located. And the cable came into this point from Europe. And so Bill thought that maybe I could find some pieces of cable if I swam around out there. And as you can see, I was prepared to deal with the cable with my hacksaws. So you're looking at a scuba diver wearing two hacksaws to cut the piece of the cable for Bill. And I swam around, and it's a strange area because not only is there liable to be a cable out there, but there's an entire, as you can read in the sign, sunken petrified forest. And so you're swimming around underwater among a bunch of petrified trees, trying to find a cable on the bottom. And I have to admit that after, probably an hour in the water, I never found any sign at all of the cable. But I have done a lot of telegraph cable recovery down in Key West, Florida. There's a cable that was laid from Key West down to Havana, Cuba. And I brought up pieces of that cable. It's in my website. The cable was laid in 1867. And just a funny little note, when I started sawing through the cable, of course, I didn't know whether it was still an active cable or not, but that was the side problem. Might have started an international incident with the United States and Cuba, although they weren't talking with each other anyway at that point. Anyway, I started sawing through this cable, and I noticed I was getting absolutely nowhere. And I looked at my hacksaw, and all the blades were, all the teeth were missing from the blades. And I tried another blade. Sure enough, the teeth were missing again. And it turns out when a cable's been underwater for 100, 150 years, the metal crystallizes and it becomes harder than just normal steel or iron. So you can't cut it with a normal hacksaw. I had to go back and rent another boat and get a hacksaw that had a carbide blade, and started on the cable. I could see I was working my way through the cable, but I got about halfway through the cable and I ran out of air. So I had to go up to the surface, and I had to get another tank, and I went down again and I finished. So it takes 2 entire scuba tanks. That's roughly 2 hours of cutting just to make one cut in the cable. And
Wow.
I ended up taking a very long piece of cable because I figured if it's that hard to cut, I had to cut twice in order to get a piece of cable. And I took a piece that was 12 feet long, and I couldn't even lift it off the bottom of the ocean at that point. I had to get what are called airbags to help me lift the cable back to the boat. Just a little aside, and it's all because of Bill Holly that I got started on this stuff. And his cable history stuff was wonderful. And if you remember at some of the shows at NEARC and NEVEE, he brought some of his telegraph cable books and telegraph cable keys. One more thing they might be interested in, a telegraph cable key is not like a normal telegraph key. You have to send dots and dashes on a long telegraph cable. But the problem with a long telegraph cable is that there's a great deal of capacitance between the inner conductor of the cable and the metal outer shell. In fact, the cable acts like a big, maybe 1 microfarad condenser. And that, of course, slows down the throughput rate of the Morse code. You can't just send a dot because you have to wait for the dot to rise, the rise time of the dot, and then you have to wait for the decay time of the dot with this condenser. And so as soon as it was obvious that long cables were not suitable for Morse code transmissions, somebody figured out that if they wind a tiny wire around the center conductor, it acts like an inductive load and cancels out the capacitance and allows you to send dots and dashes fairly rapidly. But even so, it was very difficult to send dots and dashes over a long cable like the one to Europe. And so cable keys had 2 keys instead of 1. And one of those keys was a positive key that would raise the voltage up. And the other key was a negative voltage that would pull the voltage down. So it was sort of helping to charge and helping to discharge the cable. And you had to learn to use this double key in order to send Morse code. It's a very interesting technology. Bill Burns, who is a watcher and maybe a member of the club, a major cable historian, and Bill Holly both have studied this. And I'm just sort of riding along for the fun of going diving for these things. Enough from me. Over to you. I'll stop the share here.
Oh, thank you, Tom. That was great. Some great stories. Would does anyone? I think Adrian, I saw your hand raised earlier. You're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, just that was wonderful pictures there, Tom, and talking about Bill. Earlier you were talking about the shows, vintage shows that were in the future. Nearfest is the end of April, and up in Deerfield, New Hampshire, and as I don't want to log a lot of radios, I'm going to have just a few vintage items. Actually, a friend of mine from Long Island comes up and he's going to help me load my car and unload it at the show. Anyway, that's on this. The date of it for everybody is hold on, it's April 28.
Yeah.
And 29.
Friday.
Yeah, right. It's Friday and Saturday. Nearfest is
20.
always a Friday and Saturday. So it begins at 9 a.m. on Friday, where they let everybody into the parking lot area, and ends about 3 p.m. on Saturday after all the awards and prizes, which has been for the last, I don't know, I've been going for 25 or 26 years or 27, I don't know. But anyway, just let everybody know, Nearfest is the end of April.
Thank you, Adrian. And it is important that you mention that because it is 1 week different from its normal date. And that was because of a little hassle with the fairgrounds. And Mike was very upset about that, but he finally had to give in because they own the fairgrounds. And if you're interested, if you're going to stay late enough on Friday, I'm going to be talking about the history and current values of telegraph keys at 4 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
So if you haven't sold all your radios by then, or if you have, come on over.
At this stage in my life, if I sell one thing, I'm happy. It's sitting there and talking to people as they come round, people I've known for many years. So Nearfest is, as long as the weather's okay, it's more that kind of a affair than even a NEVEE.
Do you have a favorite spot that you like, Adrian, where we could look for you?
Yeah, absolutely. You go over to the Kubota shed, and you take a right turn, and there's a long shed on the left, and there'll be a van and my white RAV4.
Is that on the
So-
far side of the sort of auditorium where they give talks and stuff?
Oh, yeah, 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 you go past the auditorium. Basically, you come up to the auditorium, turn left, keep going, and the first junction is a three-way. And if you take the most leftist one, it goes up the side of a big tin shed. When I look down, I can see the monument at the corner there by the Kubota shed.
Okay, good.
John?
Yes. Hey, Brad.
Here. I think I have a warm-up event for folks. It's called the 5 Colleges Book Sale, and it takes place in early April, like April 8th through 9, and several other days after that. And I can tell you that, whoops.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Great. And that's located where?
it's at the former Sears Plaza in Western Lebanon, New Hampshire. It's a spitting distance from the intersection of 91 and 89.
Okay.
Could you post that for us on the email reflector, Brad? That would be good for us all to have.
I will, yes, but I
Yeah,
want
that'd be
to,
super.
And I'd also like to remind everybody that the first MIT flea market is going to be the 3rd Sunday in April. And it's a winner. There's just amazing stuff there.
well,
For anybody in the central New Hampshire area, there's a flea market in Moultonborough on April 15th, Saturday, April 15th, I believe from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So April 15th is a Saturday, and Moultonborough is 2 towns to the west of me here in Ossipee.
if I could jump back,
It looks like we may be able to cover a good part of April with these announcements. That's awesome. Hey, Tom, when's the next MIT event after the April one? Because I will assuredly miss
It's
that.
always the 3rd Sunday in every month. So it's April, May, June, July, August, September, and October end. No
Good to
winter.
know, because maybe if maybe I can make one of the following ones. I know I can't make the April one.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah, so that we can meet up. Should be fun.
my story's not done on this
Oh,
because
sure. Go ahead, Brad. I'm sorry.
unlike most of the book sales, there isn't too much there. In the past, there has not been much radio information. But in this particular sale, there's a bunch of wireless class books from the late 1890s, early 1900s. Yeah, but some of them are in bad condition. For example, where's come on, where are you? I wanted to explain that some of the printed material is in tough shape. It's what we call in the used book business reading copies, meaning
Yeah.
it's seriously deteriorated, but the information is all there. We have several books in that class, and also there are a bunch of reprints of more modern receiver. Well, the modern reprints of older designs. This happens to be Henley's 222 radio circuit designs. And there was also some, I have not sorted this out yet, but there are some envelopes of notes that people have compiled to somehow, somewhere on older radio systems, equipment. And that's not all. We had a huge assortment of cryptography related books and I guess you'd call them exercises. And we're still sorting that out and trying to figure out how to bag it, but the prices are aggressively good as the week goes on. with the last day, April 16th, things will be half price if there's any left. We literally have tens of thousands of books on display. And if you do happen to go to this, and there is shopping information around, there's a Kohl's, and there's an Old Navy and a couple of other department stores, so that you can go in and browse the technology stuff to your heart's content, and while your wife or female companion can be distracted.
So I take it you're manning one of those tables there, Brad.
Yes, I'm one of the team that's responsible for the STEM table. The STEM, as you know, is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we have what amounts to probably a good 12% of the tables and loaded up with math and science and this technology assortment. But there's lots of fiction, lots of nonfiction books, and all descriptions you could possibly think of. So I'll get the information up to the group. And
Can non-members bring stuff to sell?
no, this is strictly, we've been collecting book donations for months, literally, actually years, because the last sale we had was 3 years ago. It generates scholarship money from Mount Holyoke, Simmons, Smith, Vassar, and Wellesley colleges, sponsoring students and activities. So,
Okay, that's interesting. Covers quite a range of colleges there. Wellesley's near me, but Vassar's New York and so forth. Interesting.
but anybody within, it's an easy drive up from the Boston area, probably an hour and a half from Nashua to the location. And if the weather is good, you'll have a smooth drive.
Are you going to set up in the middle of the parking lot there by, what is it now, Penny's maybe, or something like that?
Well, Penny's, we're in where the Sears and Roebuck store used to be.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's all indoors, nothing is
Oh,
out.
indoors. Okay. You're going to be in that building?
We will be in that building.
Great.
And so it's rain or shine. And I think that's about it. I'll try to answer any more questions if you have them.
Sure. Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate all these announcements. There's a lot of activity going on in our area that's always good to raise awareness, because it's not just about our own shows, but supporting others.
Yes, indeed.
Say, Tom, do you set up at MIT?
No,
Usually, yes, I do. In the middle of summer, sometimes not, but I try to get to the early ones and the late ones. And I'm usually just setting up Enigma stuff.
And what time is the start time?
Public is in at 9, setup is at 7.
And it goes till what time?
About-
What time?
Roughly 12 to 1 o'clock. It's relatively short, but a lot of people show up. It's a huge turnout.
Yeah, I've got to make it up there. I've heard about it and I've never been.
Yeah. I think it's Flea at MIT. If you look that up on Google, you get all the information, and free parking since it's Sunday, no problem at all.
All right,
Well, be
thanks.
sure to take some photos, Tom.
I'm sorry, say again?
Be sure to take some photos. when you're there.
Oh yeah, well, I did last time. Didn't I show them?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, walk around, right.
No, that'd be great.
Adrian, what is the name of your friend from Long Island?
Which one?
No, Adrian, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's
That's
my
going to be
brain's
helping you.
my brain's just gone. Wow, that's crazy.
What does he look like?
It's very tall and Matt. Name is
Tall and
Matt.
fat, wow.
Yeah, and his call sign is
Well, what town is he in?
Pardon?
What town does he live in?
He lives in Huntingdon.
Right, so- Okay,
I
Well-
used to live in Huntingdon. So.
oh, okay. All right, no, I do not know him, no.
Oh, okay.
I know short, fat guys, but no tall, fat guys.
Oh, no, he's tall. If you go to Nearfest, you'll see him. He'll be next door to me.
So, did anyone, before I share any photos of 2018, does anyone have any other stories or pictures they want to share about Bill? Ah, Larry.
Yeah, I've known Bill for a long time, but not well. You know, I saw him at the meets, realized that he was a serious telegraph key collector, and also had a lot of very early, you know, spark era and crystal set era stuff that he was into. But I got to know him a lot better when we, at the request, I think it was Alan Finger or Joe Devonshire, who said, with all the hams in this group, we should have an EVICnet. And I think Alan had just gotten his license at that point and was anxious to get on the air and do something. So we started this NEVEE about 3 years ago, and Tom was participating for quite a while, but hasn't lately, hint, hint. But Bill was a regular pretty much since day one, and was a regular until sometime in December and January, and then he stopped checking in. And I guess the thought passed my mind that it might be a health issue, but I was trying to put those thoughts to the side. And I guess that's what it turned out to be. But when he was checking in, invariably, and he was regular, he was there almost every week. And invariably, when the net was closing down, he'd thank me for herding the cats. Yeah, I got to know Bill pretty well. The man was a gentleman. Over.
Thank you, Larry. And he became ill fairly recently, quite recently. So I don't think that was it. I think he was experiencing overload because there were a lot of people, a lot of nets, and a lot of email reflectors, and he just couldn't handle that much of it. I got him involved in the Long Island CW Club, which has 3,500 members, and it's really an extraordinary club. And he gave a talk for them right maybe a month before he started getting sick. And he liked that, but he said, I can't deal with all this email. There are 3,500 members here. And even though they have a summary each day of emails, he said the summary, it would take you a week to read. So I think it was more that he just didn't want to overload himself with stuff to do.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah. Don't forget to put out a call for him next time you're on the net.
Okay, that'll be Friday morning.
Okay. I'll try and check in a week.
Great.
Did,
Last week, it was just me and Gary, who was on this meeting now, W1PG.
Put the frequency and time on the reflector again for people.
Okay, yeah, I should send out reminders every once in a while, but I'll do that, Tom.
Thanks.
sorry about the background noise. So was there anyone else who wanted to say something? All right, well, how about if I share some pictures at the 2018 event of Bill's spark transmitter. How do I do that here? Can everyone see that?
Not yet.
Oops, just give it a moment. Is it visible now?
No.
No, let's give it a most weird.
Yes,
Now it is.
there you go.
All right. Oh, there we go. Yes,
Good.
yes. It just took a moment because I could see it clearly and it was going into the share mode on my side, but it's a little bit of delay. But at any rate, this was for those of you who might have seen the video that Howard posted, and I'll try and show it after this. I figured I'd do the stills first so that it wouldn't spoil the video in case it doesn't go too well on sharing. But this was the spark transmitter from, I think, was it around the late teens or early 20s that Bill had. Tom, you would know the exact year better than I do. But this was at the 2018, I guess at that point we were still radio, you know, we were at radio 48 or 49, that Bill had the nice setup. And I think Bruce Phillips had in his email had talked about, you know, it was mounted on this plywood. It was heavy as all get to move around, because this is solid metal. This is not for the faint of heart from a lifting standpoint. And so the transmitter, here's the key right here. The video I can show, he sort of walks, Paul Burish is there with Bill walking through the operation. But Bill was giving demos, but a little funny story is he had given a demo and I was a little bit late to getting there. And I asked Bill, could you do the demo again? Because I really want to get a couple of shots. And he was very polite about it, but he was a bit worried about creating a lot of disturbance, you know, from running the spark transmitter. But he said, okay, but he kept it short, you know, just so I could get a few shots of it in operation, which I thought was really, you know, was really gold to be able to catch on film. You know, and in retrospect, I should have did it with video, but I think I had my still camera with me at that point. But I'll just walk through. Of course, there's Bill in his classic dapper attire, and you can see he's wearing the classic tie. But this is there's a nice panorama shot of the unit, and he's about to fire it up. He's giving sort of a walkthrough of how it operates. And there's Bill. Like there was someone else to the side of me. I forgot who it was. That was kind of talking with him, and I was more taking the photos and semi-interacting with Bill. Another shot. There's an operation. You see the spark. It was really vivid, even in brightly lit room. You know, you had no trouble seeing it. And in fact, actually, it was a little bit brighter than even my camera was capturing. It was really cool, and it was certainly very audible throughout the room. You knew it was running. And you see Bill's working the key at that point. So that was really quite fun to see. You know, there's Brandon in the background there.
John,
Yeah.
I remember that I was there, and I recall that there was a problem with somebody talking about the people with pacemakers. They wanted him to stop. I guess he had to stop demonstrating because there was maybe an issue with the RF affecting people's pacemakers. But it really was very cool to see.
It sure was. That's a great point. I remember you mentioned it over email, Lou. That's a really good point. I think Bill, and I think Bill was really, I think whether or not he was aware of being advised about the pacemaker, I think he was worried about disturbing the overall, you know, event as well as any, you know, other electronics or whatnot, but he was a good guy.
Yeah.
He indulged me once again, you know, just so I could get a few shots. And I thought these are kind of priceless photos because you don't see these very often, and a nicely elaborate display. He did a really nice job.
Yeah, it was very cool. I was so glad I was there to see that.
Yeah, ditto. Because I think that's the only time I remember him bringing it, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
Various shots there. And there's Bill, you know, being the good guy he was, you know, answering questions and proudly demonstrating this early communication device. And that's my photos. I can try running the video for what it's worth. Let's see if we could do that.
That'd be
Skip the right-
great, John. Yeah. And if anybody wants a walkthrough of the spark transmitter, maybe we could do that. Anybody interested in the technology of the thing?
Oh, well, definitely. If so you have a little presentation you'd want to do there,
No, I just, we could sort of point out the different parts and people could.
oh,
talk.
sure. You want me to go back to the photos?
Yeah, why don't you do that? We'll see if we can reconstruct
sure.
what he's got there. It's a homemade spark transmitter using commercial components.
Let me just 1 second here. Let me just go back to the let me try and get to the right photo. I think I'll go to the pan out one because I thought that, yeah. Let me do- That's what I can do. Sorry, Tom, I just want to get to the
I'm
right.
sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
you
no, no, no. It's absolutely zero trouble. Happy to do it. Okay, let me share. Okay, just let me know when you're seeing it. She's
That's
seeing it,
good,
right?
yeah. So on the left is a loose coupler. We all know that. That's the receiver part. And on the right, help me with this if I'm completely off base, but I think he has this thing plugged into AC.
Yes, there was a plug back there, I think.
Right, and the AC is feeding into a very high voltage transformer, possibly one of those fluorescent light starter transformers, or.
I think in the
possibly-
video, he mentioned something like 3,000 volts to
Yeah,
please back away from it as he continues to start it up and key it.
right, so most likely that is what's happening in reality. In the early days, the stations used batteries and they didn't have AC to plug into. And so what they did was to use like a Model A spark coil technique in which you have a primary running on a battery voltage like 6 volts, and then you have an interrupter, and that produces AC, which induces a very high voltage in the secondary. The secondary is many windings. So you're stepping up from 6 volts to 20,000 volts, for instance. And once you have that high voltage, then all you have to really do is to have a spark gap. And I believe that the spark gap on this one is just the rotary spark gap that you see on the right, which is two electrodes on the left and right with little knobs on them so you can adjust the spacing to the rotating wheel, which is the other half of the circuit. So as this thing goes around, it interrupts the high voltage at a frequency usually around, what, anybody done this? Maybe 350 hertz, something like that. Does that sound right to you, Larry? Do you remember what it sounded like?
I don't remember the frequency of Bill's machine, but it was usually a low mid-range audio frequency. So maybe, yeah, I'd say in the range of 300 to 600 hertz, somewhere around there. You know, that it would depend how many electrodes you had on the wheel, because the motors, I think, probably were synchronous motors for the most part. I could be wrong on that, but
They're DC, usually DC, because
okay, I
that's all they
stand
had.
corrected. I stand corrected, but you know, it'll depend on two things: and the speed of the motor and the number of electrodes on the wheel that the motor's driving. That will determine how many times the gap is going to be made and broken in a given amount of time, and that will determine the audio frequency.
Now, there's also a condenser in there, and in many of the older sets, it consists of plates of glass that separate sort of aluminum foil kinds of sheets. But I wonder if that thing that we're looking at, sort of in the middle of the picture behind this coil in the foreground, might be a condenser. It's hard to tell what that is back there, but I think you really need a condenser to make these things work properly.
I
Yeah,
think
you
from
do.
unless you can find it somewhere else. He did point to something in the video saying that it was an old type fuse. In case something went catastrophically wrong, a fuse would blow.
I
So
think
I'm not-
that's the thing that is just to the side of his hand there. It's an emergency circuit breaker, essentially.
Yeah.
That exact middle of the picture now.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it, John. Thank you.
right.
The condenser was required because the condenser and the spiral coil that you saw there created the tuned circuit.
Thank you, Larry, of course. Right.
And
The tune, go ahead.
you mentioned the early spark coils from a Model A Ford. Well, this is one from a Model T Ford. Most of you can probably seen these. It's a little wooden box. And these were used in a lot of the early, very early amateur spark transmitters, where if you talked across the town, you were doing good.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. I'm completely wrong on you calling it a Model A. No, you should have caught me on that one. It's the Model T spark coil, just as you pointed out.
I'm most familiar with those being used on the hit and miss engines that you'll see
Yeah.
at a lot of the shows.
That too. Yeah, right. Like the one that you were going to buy, but we couldn't connect.
Yeah, it was going to be problematic to haul it all the way to Texas.
Oh man, it was a heavy son of a gun too. Now the coil that we're looking at in the top part of this picture is a coupler. The antenna, I believe, is hooked to one of those coils, and the spark circuit to the other. So it's an inductive coupling between the sparking circuit, which I think is going to the coil on the right, and the antenna, which would be going to the coil on the left. That sound right to folks?
Looks right based on the description, your description and the picture.
Yeah, I think the wires are going down into the high voltage circuit for the right coil. So I don't know how you would decide how to adjust the coupling there.
It looks like they might slide on that wooden rod.
Yeah, but what would you adjust it for? What would you be looking for?
How far your hair stood up as you were moving?
Maybe antenna current. They might have a light bulb or something else in series with the antenna circuit, a light bulb or a meter.
Yeah, that could be very easily. So in any event, that is a major adjustment on many spark transmitters. Murdoch, for instance, one of the big manufacturers that made different kinds of coupling coils for spark transmitters. And of course, hams had any number of different variations of setups like this. Whatever they could put their hands on or whatever they could afford, they would cobble that stuff together and make a spark transmitter out of it.
I might add that's an IP500 on the far left of the photo. IP500 receiver.
Ah, okay.
I have a better photo of that.
And I believe the key might be a Boston key. The Boston spark keys came with two different bases. They came with a black base and with a marble base. And no ham could afford either one of them. So they were really expensive. They were primarily used in commercial stations because they cost $5. And that was out of the price range for most hams. So what hams did was they would take a regular landline key and solder a dime onto each side of the key. They called these dime keys, and the dimes were made mostly of silver in those days. So you had great big contacts that could handle a fair amount of current without paying $5 for the Boston key.
Very interesting.
Any
Well,
more little tidbits people can help out with there?
What's the thing that looks like it's part of the receiver that looks like a variac or something? Is that like a volume control for the headset?
I think that's
Variable condenser.
Ah, okay.
Variable
To
condenser.
go with the coil. Okay.
And I think if you look to the left, right behind the earphones, you'll see a crystal detector.
Mm-hmm.
Can you move a little further left, John? That's it. Yeah.
There
Okay.
you
And
go.
yeah, I think you can see the cat whisker right on the top of that crystal detector there.
Hmm.
Then you got a fixed condenser right between the two.
That's a fixed
Black.
condenser.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
black
Yeah.
box.
Right.
What's going on where the hand just was to the left of the coupler? What is that? It appears to be a switch of some sort.
Looks a little like a rheostat.
Yeah, I was going to just
with-
say a rheostat with the
Yeah,
little
with
pads that are there.
contacts. You slide that little black knob toward you or away from you, and it makes contact with one of those little round.
Right, but I'm trying to think how on a crystal set what would that do? It seems to go right into the cat's whisker.
Yeah, I don't think a rheostat would be a necessary or desirable component in a crystal set.
Could it have something to do with the receiver further to the left there?
No, I don't think
don't
so.
It looks like
so.
it's secured to that same piece of plywood.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Maybe he
Unless
just had
it's
a,
some-
maybe he just had a little extra real estate and thought it looked cool and decided he'd put it there. On a TV schematic from the 1940s, that would be listed as a gimmick. It would just be
Right.
something.
Right.
The switch that does nothing.
Yeah, but looks good.
Exactly.
That's nice.
Well, doesn't Bruce Phillips own that now?
I think
think-
so.
That's
Yeah,
my
Yeah.
impression from his story.
Yeah, maybe he knows what it is.
I think he also said he had to cut it in half in order to move it.
Well,
Yeah, I've
this,
been
I
looking
just
at
can't
trying to figure
imagine
out
this
where
being a one-man job, this section over here.
Hmm.
That's for sure. That was great.
Pretty amazing.
I could try like I said, I'll share the video and see if what I can do here. Share again, let's go to my. Let me just select. Oh, here we are. Let's try this. All right, guys, I'm gonna try run this video. Just let me know when you can see it.
You see it.
All right, this is the video that Howard kindly posted. Let's see if we can hear this. I will keep the audio running. I'm not sure how it's kind of quiet, so you may not hear it, but it's only a couple of minutes.
Can you make it full screen, John, with that?
Oh,
little-
yes. Hold on.
There you go. Whoop.
Boom.
Oh, beautiful. Wow.
Whoops,
No
sorry about that,
audio.
guys.
Yeah, I think that picture frame is actually holding like an early ham license or something that you needed to run that thing.
Yeah, and the circuit diagram might be on that other sheet of paper.
Yep.
Is there any audio that went with it, John, or is it purely video?
There was audio in the YouTube when you went to the YouTube on your own PC. I think there might be some bandwidth or CPU
think
issues
you're-
right now.
Bandwidth problem.
I think
right.
before you share it, you have to select the right audio source, the right
Oh.
audio output.
Wait, hold on. Wait, say it again, Larry?
go into the sound settings. I think there's a setting to share the audio, and then you got to remember to put it back when you're done, or nobody's going to hear you.
Oh, right. Let me see here.
Oh, yeah, because it's using John's microphone now, not the audio from the YouTube.
Right.
Boy, it seems to be having enough trouble just handling the audio. John, can you post the link on the groups?
He
IO?
did. I think
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
up.
did he? Oh, okay.
I can do that. See here.
Oh, you don't have to do it again, John. It was posted on the Reflector very recently. It was either
Yeah.
yesterday or today.
Yeah,
So
I think I watched it earlier.
Yeah, Howard just
Mm.
posted it either this morning or last night. I forget which one. I responded saying, "Oh, this is great," because I didn't even know this video was posted.
he posted the link, and I saw it on my cell phone, but I want to watch it on my computer where I can actually, where you know, obviously it'll be more enjoyable with a larger screen.
Right, right. Well, there's only for this work, there's only about 30, 40 seconds left. I'll just finish it up on there just so you can see the visual. But wait.
— 1913. Yeah, on the YouTube, you can hear that raspy sound that Tom was talking about before.
Yeah, there was another reason besides putting a tone on the signal why they used the rotary gap. The rotary gap would do what they called quenching the spark, and what it did was it kept the gap electrodes cool, because when the gap electrodes get hot, you start evaporating some of the metal, and it actually starts to arc between the gaps because you're of the vaporized metal rather than a pure spark, and that would ruin the efficiency, and the RF output of the spark would fall off when you started to arc. So they had different methods of quenching gaps, and a rotary gap was one of them. Another one was to blow air through the gap, you know, just like have a air gun type of thing permanently mounted, blowing the gap. Another reason why the rotary gap was used, besides putting a musical tone on the signal.
Thanks, Larry. That's good information.
Yeah, it's
No,
the
definitely.
difference between a spark and an arc, right?
Well, arc transmitters are really totally different. The arc was run in a vodka atmosphere. That is very high level of alcohol in the atmosphere, and that enhanced the maintenance of the arc. It's very complicated.
Vodka or hydrogen.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about the hydrogen. Vodka's more fun.
Well, I'd like to save the vodka for other uses, you know.
Polson arcs, and I had a friend who built one in his basement. He and I were both afraid he was going to blow up the basement for this thing, because it's literally highly explosive atmosphere in there.
I bet.
But the technology is fascinating. To get an arc to oscillate essentially at a particular frequency, imagine that. And then really exciting stuff to modulate the arc frequency with voice. Read about that history. It's just unbelievable, neat.
The arc output is almost pure CW. So you could modulate it. You couldn't dream of modulating a spark waveform.
Right.
Well,
There are flame, have you seen demonstrations of a flame speaker? There are audio flame speakers as well, where it's actually modulating. I don't know, modulating the flame, and it actually reproduces sound.
I've
Yeah,
never seen it. Now, if somebody could find a video to play for us of that, that would be really cool.
Okay.
I've seen
Love-
videos on YouTube of that, and also the flame triode. That's
Ah.
pretty amazing. A guy built a triode device in a just like a alcohol lamp flame, and he's got it wired to an oscillator, audio oscillator, and it's oscillating. So it proves it has gain.
Wow.
Oh yeah, check that out. Do a search on YouTube on flame triode, and you'll find some interesting stuff there.
Amazing.
good to know. So, did anyone have anything else they wanted to share before I jump into maybe sharing some more photos from NEVEE 6? If not, I'll pick up where we left off from the last meeting for a little bit. All right. See here.
Just that I know Bill is up there laughing at us. You guys.
I'm sitting here thinking, this is
Yeah.
this is a fitting tribute to Bill, just in terms of all the strange topics that are being discussed. And I'm sure
Yeah.
he would have something to add to just about every one of them too.
That's
No
right.
question. No question. Well, he'll always be part of every Zoom meeting going forward. We know that. All right. Now, hopefully I remember where we left off. Because admittedly, I confess I forgot to mark it when where we picked up where we left off last meeting. So I apologize if there's a little bit of overlap. Because you say, "Hey, I saw that already." Just let me know in all advance. And I'll say, "Oh, wait a minute, that's where we left off." Because I remember, I'm pretty sure that we were pretty much talking about this display. We were talking about these radios, and we covered it from last week.
Yep.
So I'm gonna pick up from sort of here. So I thought this is where we're at. But it may be something will jog, and I'll say, "Whoops, we saw this." At any rate, picking up where we left off, here we have a Admiral transistor radio. Not one you see all that often. Got the box, these nice red, white, and blue stripes. You'd almost think that was from something from the bicentennial.
Yeah.
There's one of the fathers, that gentleman's table I showed just a moment ago. It's just one of his radios. I think we saw one of these photos earlier. This one I think is asking $1,600 when if I remember
Oh,
correctly. Yeah, and Catalan, yeah. And here's an Albin. That might make manufacturer you see very often for a cool $75. Fixed transistor AM radio. I don't see those very often. I know very little about Albin.
I've never seen one.
No.
Yeah, ditto. So at least I'm glad I'm not. I'm glad I'm in the majority here. Yeah, neat radios. Maybe it's worth it because of its rarity. Here's a Philco radio clock. And I don't see any controls, so I assume this is just a separate independent clock that happens to have a radio, I guess, part of it. See this attack. Here we go. It's a Philco 551 clock radio. Works, $350.
Hmm.
Don't know whose table that was, though, however. Radio loudspeaker. Totally original, working condition. For a cool $125. Not bad. Wow. Second remarkable condition for original. Awesome. Oops. There was a gentleman who posted, I think it was Steve Bayer, posted a bunch of test equipment, so we will see a fair amount of that. It's been a good couple of dozen uses that he posted. Of this one being a, I'm sure who the maker of it is. Looking around, maybe it's right in front of me, but see the sign, multimeter. I don't really know whom this originates.
It looks like a military meter.
I was just about to say, I wonder if this is military because, you know, just judging from the serial and the devoid of any manufacturer markings. Suspect you're right.
Look at that tag. It's definitely a military designation. ME 237/U.
Definitely.
Or
Yeah.
297, 237 or 297.
My guess is it's a hard one to say. I think I want to say it's a 9 just because it looks like it wants to loop in, but it could be I'm running out of resolution. The crafters, I champion.
I made my first 3 CW contacts ever with one of those.
And there's Russ. Russ Stein member. That must be obviously his table. There we go. Nice edge. Here's the Grebe synchrophase radio receiver. I think this is the one we might have covered this because I think that
Adam bought it.
Yes, Adam bought that. And he was quite, yes, we did cover this. So I apologize, there's a little bit of overlap there. But yes, he definitely came away with this and he was pleased as punch that he owns it. This is interesting television. I'm trying to see what it
I thought I saw RCA Victor logo on the lower.
yeah, there it is. Thank you. Yeah, it was right there. But I find this all very interesting. This elaborate drill work. Early microphone. Who makes this one? Amperite. Amperite company from New York. There's Mata. Not sure the going price here, but it looks to be in fine shape. This Catlin radio, which is a little bit of rough problems in the grill cross, but not too bad. Here's sort of a pan out. Looking out, also the neat stuff. Ah, here we go. Wireless Age magazine. There we go. Here's a few interesting.
What is that?
Oh, this is interesting. Oh, very interesting. I think this is an early radio because this is I think this is Lova before it became Lova Opta. I think it's German. I remember, and that these are pretty valuable. Early 1 tube. I've seen those on at least on eBay. Take eBay for what it's worth, but I see something like this pop up every once in a while, and they're asking actually a solid 4-figure price. You know, this I don't know much about. National. This is probably just some sticker. I mean, I don't even know whether this really belongs with this. That's very. I know. I didn't notice this because I reviewed the pictures. I didn't notice the name. And yes, it's their logo. This is definitely from the teens, 20s. Oh, there we go. It's another picture of it. See, yeah, it's a, yep, you see house for off. It's definitely German. Somebody brought in a pretty neat little shtick. I wish they were asking just so I know. It's like, I'm sure it was hefty. Look at that too. That's big. Oh, this is fun. GE radio tube block.
Nice.
Great for the workshop. That's nice.
That's not a great clock because it's just kind of in you know, it's in a way it's saying that we don't test our tubes, we just sell them to you. That's kind of a unique advertising clock, but that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Worked when new.
Yes, bought new, purchased new by the original owner.
Yeah.
That's right. There's a bunch of transistor radios of various types. I see a Sony, a Zenith. Some of these I'm not so sure I know. Then they sure what that is. Read the label. And here's an Emerson. Okay.
That's definitely an Emerson. You got a Zenith. I think that's an RCA there. That's an Emerson Explorer, that teal blue one. I can't make out the label on the leatherette multi-band radio laying
This
there.
one
Yeah,
kind of get so dirty. I can't.
it starts with a B, whatever it is.
Yes, I see.
That'd be Sharp. SHARN.
Not sure. Yeah, neat selection.
Upper right corner of the dial has a name on it, I think.
The upper right corner.
Something master.
You're talking. Sorry,
Yeah,
Tom.
on the right side there. Yeah, can you blow that up a little bit more?
Oh, it's megacycles. and-
Megacycles, kilocycles,
Oh,
kilocycles.
yeah, okay, sorry.
No, that's quite
That's
all right.
okay.
That's quite all right.
John, the transistor radio that was above the one that you just talked about is, I believe it's an Emerson, the leather case,
Oh, okay.
and it's the back of the radio. It's plastic, but it's curved, so it looks like a little shelf clock.
Um,
I had one of those back in 1959, before I even left England. My father bought one over.
okay.
That's why I recognized it.
Oh, the case. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, interesting. Well, thank you, Adrian. See, between all of us, we're bound to identify just about anything in the photo. Speaking of an Emerson clock.
Oh.
I see it say every purpose and every. What's that say? Oh, I can't be right. Every purpose and every view. It says caught by the reflection of the window behind, so kind of here's some of the wording. Meanwhile, there's a early radio, Adams Morgan Company. How interesting. Not seen very often. This wasn't. Did Merrill have a table by any chance? Wish I. Let's see here.
It's Bruce Mager's stuff,
Oh, okay.
waves.
Sure what's going on there, but we got a close up. There we go. Night. State Star Rover. Seems to be pretty nice shape. What do we have here? Okay, let's get close up. This Suchin doesn't tell me. Anyone know what this might be?
The dial almost looks like an echo phone.
See
But
nothing.
usually on discussion, it would say echo phone if that's.
Oh,
what
no,
it
it's Majestic. I think, no, is that
Majestic.
Majestic?
is. Yeah,
No, Musette? Wait. Musette? I see Majestic. I thought it was Majestic, but now
There's Musette.
Musette.
Zit.
yeah.
Emerson.
Not something you see that often, I suppose.
No.
Nice condition too. Oh, here is a rod.
Hard.
Generally nice, pretty nice condition. The helicopters. 38C.
38C. Boy,
Some fine shape. Some more modern stuff here. Got a acoustic dynamics, Sansui in the middle, and a Sony in the bottom. Set deck, receiver, and receiver. Is this a Bogan? Yeah, it is. Yeah. Bogan amplifier. Here's this General Electric with an unusual studded cover.
Yeah.
That's original.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly unusual.
It's a genuine imitation Naugahyde.
Yes, indeed. Well, someone did, I will say this, someone did a heck of a job for what it's worth.
No Nagas were harmed in the creation of this radio.
Exactly. Can only imagine what the condition of the wood was underneath.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's probably the realistic case. When in doubt, cover it up.
The alternate model of that had a 78 player on the top of it. That one obviously didn't. Or if it did, it won't be opened anytime soon.
Yeah.
Now you think I would have chosen fine Corinthian leather instead. Maybe that was really an alcohol anyway. Here's a Grundig reel-to-reel
Mm-hmm.
TK40. I think about it. Oh, here's, I think, that same French elegant radio, the Excelsior, I think. That is quite the visual. Get quite the visual on this one. We have here Philco 90. I've seen 370 for a restored. Looks to be nicely restored. Certainly cosmetically it looks nice.
Almost looks like it's got a 70 cabinet.
Did I misread that? There's Philco. It looks like it says
Thank
Philco
you.
90.
Yeah, usually the 90s had a cutout on the bottom bezel. And the 70s were flat like that.
Interesting.
Minor detail.
There's a Philco. Oh, this has got to be Paul Lavoie's table.
That's
This
a 39-30.
Yeah, Paul's usually got some pretty spectacular cabinet work.
Yeah, and so in these multi-panel, this looks like his handiwork. Nice Philco. Another nice one. You see it's powered up. You see that dial light there. Yeah, that's definitely his work.
That one's got the early FM band too.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
and along the top.
Yep. Oh, that's great.
That's absolutely beautiful work.
Yeah, he does really nice work.
That's a huge set. I had one of those once.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. it
Yeah,
takes
they
a
look, they
lot.
are good size. They're good size.
A Dumont scope. I haven't seen one of them in a long time.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of test equipment, certainly from the pictures that were.
That's the new one. I think I used to have not a 401. I think I had a 201. It was pretty much almost audio frequency, but I was doing a lot of amplifier and speaker work at the time.
I've got a couple 304Hs in my basement, Dumonts. That was, I think the basic design was the first DC coupled scope.
Oh, there's a wide.
Zeniths
Great.
are us.
Wow.
Look at that. Da, 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 da. Quite the variety, quite the colors, got all the colors represented, and he makes them up. Is that I forgot his name, was that the guy from the Midwest? Is that his table? There's a gentleman that came out with one of the radio shows a few years back. Yeah,
Is that his call sign down there underneath?
oh yeah, KA1, I think it's KA1, I'm not sure whether it's a 0 or what, or what that is.
GH or something? I don't know.
I remember a few years back, he had quite a impressive selection of Zeniths just like these, all nicely laid out.
Somebody from the Midwest wouldn't have a KA1 call unless he moved there from New England.
Yeah, no, you may be right. It kind of looked similar to, but there was another gentleman that had a bunch of radios that were quite a whole collection, and this stuff was like almost new in the box, or so maybe it's the other person. I think he was at the Fall Brookline show. I took a bunch of photos from it, so maybe it's that gentleman. It's pretty cool. Emerson. Nice. Well, we got a wide right. Got a Bogan there, and lots of toys. Where do we? This interesting. The wall. Quite the graphics on the volume now. Pretty funny. What else we got here? Jackson. Is that a condenser tester? It's another Jackson. Yep, got a couple of Jackson condenser testers. Got a Bogan. And what else we got here? Right. Is it Browning? Did I read that right?
I think it's a Browning Laboratories.
Yeah. Okay, the eyes are still working. Yes, there's quite a variety of stuff here. Oh, there's a close up of the wall. That's pretty funny though. This I like this. I guess it's for symmetry. You have this nice dial face, and we'll throw on some also obvious graphics for the volume control knob.
Real high tech stuff there.
The classic white mold on the brown plastic.
Oh yeah, our recent discussion on that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they're oxidizing.
Yep.
This is a relatively older Dell laptop. No power supply. Okay.
$15.
Well, what are you gonna do? It doesn't even have
I wonder if he sold it for $15.
Oh my gosh, that would have been remarkable. Here is a Craftsman. Interesting.
Craftsman.
300 amp.
Okay.
The Craftsman. It's not.
Looks like
not Craftsman. It's the Craftsman.
Looks like it's trying to be a trying to be a Macintosh or something.
Yeah.
Audio output transformer, a power transformer, a filter choke, some condensers, rectifier tubes, and push-pull outputs.
Yeah. First I've ever seen. Nice that. It's one of the that was one of the radios I donated. I didn't even know how that turned out, but as I see a couple of names on there. This is a Ewood 196 from right around circa 1960. Those are neat little radios. Sound nice.
I got the job of writing up the auction results for the next Raven, so
Stay tuned.
I've got all that paperwork, so stay tuned.
All right. Yes, this is an Emerson EB 344 from 1940. There he is. Proof that Larry was running the show. Runs a tight ship. You can see the menacing look on his face. Don't get close to these unless you're going to write your name and increase the number. Is this? This is a. Just trying to think what radio this is.
I think it's an Emerson in a homebrew cabinet.
I was going to say,
it looked homebrew.
yeah, because there we go. I was looking for it. I was thinking, geez, I don't recognize this. Actually, it did a pretty good job for a homebrew cabinet.
Yeah.
You know, it's a pretty darn good job.
It was a very nicely made cabinet, definitely.
Yeah. No, I can give the guy, whoever donated, give him kudos for doing the cabinet. Here, it's an Emerson 425. Nice radio, lots of potential. Unintended. Oh, look at this. A Snap Circuit Electronic Gadget Lab.
Mhm.
Like something straight out of the 70s or 80s. Oh, yes, we did cover this earlier. It's a Telefunken Jubilata 5261 Deluxe. Why is it Deluxe? It has the EM84 tuning. You didn't have the Deluxe, you don't get that. You have 1, 2 less. But these are actually, I think I mentioned last week, very sensitive and actually good reception and sensitivity for a base radio from the Germans. You got your money's worth if you wanted something that was going to, be a nice bedroom or kitchen radio. Oh, what do we have here? Philco 60. Restored and works fine. Yeah, it looks in nice shape. Nice looking radio. This is interesting. We have here a Radiola 3A. Wow. Includes the WD11 tubes with good filaments. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we didn't display them in the radio. I had those in back of it so that they wouldn't disappear.
All right. That'd be most unfortunate. What do we have here? This is a Polydyne, Poly Royal TRF radio, battery radio. Interesting. It's unusual. It's a tube tester. It's a Weston model 774. Pioneer reel-to-reel. Oh, there's a nice little wall. Tractable radio for 20 bucks. being pretty reasonable. Looks to be all there and in pretty nice shape overall. Certainly-
$20 radio with free clock
Yeah. You know,
and a drive-in movie
$20
speaker.
clock with the free radio.
Yeah, and a drive-in movie speaker behind it.
Yeah.
this is a reasonable bargain for the price. The condition, the condition is quite good. More than fair. Early telephone. Okay, here is some of the additional tests. I know that this is Steve's pictures. Transistor checker.
Somebody at the last meeting said they bought that, but I forget who it was.
The transistor checker you're talking about?
Might have been Hugh. I think it was Hugh.
Oh, yeah, that might have been that. That might be the case. Here's a Bell and Howell.
Apple Computer Incorporated.
Interesting. The curious early PC. What they're asking for it. Apple. Actually, I don't know what that's really the price. I hope that's really $650. Wow, if that's really the case. Like maybe those early Apples are really commanding high prices.
Yeah, some of those are really early computers that they didn't make a lot of. They're starting to become collectible.
Oh, I can believe it. That's why I'm not shocked. I'm like a little bit, but I'm like, but not as I think about early Apple. I mean, people getting crazy money for early iPhones and other things, first gen ones. So, in retrospect, I'm probably not all that shocked. Oh, cool! A Tinker toy.
Senior Tinker toy.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, senior, shouldn't somebody get that back to the home before they find it missing?
Yeah.
Right. Well, it says right here for ages 65 and over.
Yeah.
Oh,
No one under that is allowed to touch it.
Huh.
It's a hit harmonic distortion meter.
He's good.
That's an unusual device. Hey, here's a wide variety of goodies on someone's table. What do we got here? General Electric, is that right?
yeah.
Yeah, as I thought.
Yeah, I've got a sort of bluish aqua version of that.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I guess most of the curious stuff here looks so some sort of multi-band radio behind you. I'm not sure who makes that one. That's the scale. And this one here, is this a Panasonic? Sure, it might be. Might be an early Panasonic, from the late 60s. AMF clearly. There's a variety of various transistor radios we got here. Some of the resolution is lost quickly, but variety of stuff. There's a helicopters. 572R 4-band. 1949. Put Zenith TOs to shame. Probably the best tube portable made. Old tubes. Good, works well, but needs cleanup. $80. Well, if it really blows away a TO, maybe it is worth $80.
Well, it is a helicopters after all, right?
Yeah, it's really funny because the TOs are fairly good. I've never owned one of these, but I've also heard from people that have had the early Magnavox multiband, which was the supposedly, one of the very early like battery portables, they were solid state. It was like the first solid state portable. That supposedly puts everything else to shame. So I guess I don't know. You'd probably have to have one of each and put them all to the test. I guess if I had nothing but money, I could probably buy them all and do a YouTube video on which one I thought was best. But
Right.
they're all pretty good. They're all pretty good radios.
Right. It may come down to also, some people are always diehard Helicopter fans or diehard TO fans. Root for your team.
Yeah, exactly.
Still, you don't see these very often, so it's actually a neat piece of multi-band.
Well, ironically, that Helicrafters has a 106 in it like a TO, so I don't know what the big deal is. Yeah, really, it's probably the same tube complement. That's most of them had that anyway.
Maybe their claim is we're a boat anchor, you're not. That's not better.
It's okay.
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's a later national.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, look at this Grundig 4019 for 61. With a
Wow.
1-year warranty.
Hey,
Actually, it was 275. Well, I mean, if it was redone, this is a nice, solid mid upper line radio. In really nice shape, girl cloth clean. This has at least 3 speakers. I forgot on this radio because there's the main one here, but I can't tell if there's one back there. I forget on this one, but they may have a couple on the sides. But it's an import version because it's a Majestic. So you should get the full FM frequency range. Nice sounding radios.
This is not my wheelhouse, John, but it says stereo on the front. So I guess there's a speaker on either side of the cabinet, maybe?
Do they say where do you see stereo?
Yeah, and that little V thing where it says stereo and then 40.
Oh, you're right. Good
yeah,
catch. Bob.
it's usually it's not the FM that's stereo. It's usually
Yeah.
just for plugging in like a tape recorder or
Or turntable or something like
turntable.
that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. The early, in fact, my Telefunken Sonata and Allegro are the same way. Those early ones, and unless you could buy the optional FM the decoder, they would clamp on the back of the inside of the back panel. I forgot this one's early stereo, so this is exactly what Noah said. This makes it even nicer. So it's assuredly got at least 3 speakers, and so what you would do is you probably would buy a Grundig bookshelf speaker, really any German bookshelf speaker, because they're all about the same impedance, and you get really 4 speakers out of it. And you get a little bit nicer stereo experience. But these Grundigs have great FM reception. They're actually nice radios. For the price, it seems pretty reasonable actually overall. If that was restored and brought up.
Yeah. Especially if all the buttons work.
Yeah, well, that's the hope, right? Because they had the the tricky thing was they had the pot metal keys and those things.
Well, it doesn't look like this one unless it's coincidence. Some of them are also really. Oh, yes, it does. Now, see how the little red dial indicator for FM is in a different place than the other one for the broadcast and shortwave, because there's actually like a clutch mechanism as well as you switch between AM and FM.
Yeah.
The tuning dial, you can set the stations separately, but it's a spring-loaded clutch and friction disc, and that can also be a nightmare along with the pot metal pieces.
Yeah. Some of the other German manufacturers did that. Telefunken often did not, and I'm kind of glad they didn't, because they just add more complexity, and as they age, they don't age well in that department.
It's nice to be able to have your, rarely is your favorite AM station going to be in the exact same place as your favorite FM station.
Yeah, no, there was no question, at the time, buying it new, no question that was a reason to buy it, because it would be a nuisance, 100%. But as they age, and of course, us being collectors, you start saying, well, this is kind of great that it doesn't have it, because it's one less thing to break and fix, But
Two dial
nice-
cords,
No.
a clutch mechanism. It was, it could be a problem.
Oh, yeah. This also has the variable sound, they have this sort of basic sound register keys, and they allow you to adjust it, which so it's really, really actually a nifty radio. I actually think it's a pretty reasonable price, all things considered. Let's see, what do we have here?
Planet front Philco.
Okay,
Nice,
thank
yeah.
you. I was looking for usually there's some sort of Philco badge. I don't see it.
Well, I think someone may have refinished the cabinet and they just didn't have another water label to put on it.
Yeah.
I had to go to radio days for that, I suppose. Nice radio. Oh, it's a Techniques.
Techniques by Panasonic.
Yes. Boy, they were the rage in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
I think
it looks
that's a
like a
Pioneer. Is that a Pioneer quad on the bottom?
so that's why,
I'm pretty sure it's quad because I'm looking
that's
at
why
this.
they hope over there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I remember my father buying in the early 70s from Lafayette the Panasonic quadraphonic system. I thought it was actually pretty nifty.
they had like
Really good.
CD4 and SQ and a couple of others. Well, standards are a wonderful thing. That's why there's so many of them.
Yes, indeed.
I forget the number of the CRT they use for that scope tube that's in there, but they're going for big bucks now. Marantz had some quad receivers. They use that same scope tube.
What was the scope tube indicating?
Well, your balance, if you had
Right.
the exact same signal coming out of all four speakers, you'd have a dot in the center.
Right, I was gonna say, yeah, and you could see it. Oh, yeah. But my dad's one didn't have anything quite so fancy. I think it was you had to do it by ear. It was, it was probably a lower to midline quadraphonic, but boy, I tell you, the sound was fun. I thought it was really nifty.
That was a fun era when these things came out around 73, and then next thing you know, there was like in the New York area anyway, I think there was like 3 stations. There were 2 in New York and 1 in New Jersey that was full-time quadraphonic FM.
Yeah.
As long as you had the decoder thing
Yeah.
in or the decoder module, it's like a module that you could plug in. At least the Marantz had them. You were actually receiving in quadraphonic. It was pretty neat.
Interesting. I'm not sure whether my dad's the Panasonic had it already as part of it. Because yeah, he obviously heard about the quadraphonic system, the quadraphonic signal, and he probably said, "Well, I must have one." So the speakers on the it's mounted the speakers on the wall, but it was great. So the funny thing is, he had a turntable with it too, and he had this cool sound effects record that was from the late 50s, I suppose, and it was stereo, and they had all sorts of interesting mechanical sounds. But one of my favorite was Douglas DC-6, those 4-engine radial motors, and it has it taking off from a runway, and when it flies right over you, you go from the left speakers, and then all speakers are running when it sounds like it's going right over you, and then the 2 right speakers as it's flown over, going the distance. It was so cool because I thought it was my favorite sound. It sounded like the plane flew right over you, especially you crank up the volume. It was cool, and I love the sound of those old radial engines.
I got a bunch of stereo test records and things like that from back in that day. 4-channel audio dynamite, and stuff like that with different pieces of music and sound effects and whatnot.
Yeah. Yep.
Nothing to play them on anymore, but still have them.
Yeah. Well, someday. I think this was Ross's areas, as I think someone had mentioned. There's a couple of interesting items here. Wow, actually, it's pretty good for $40, $10 each. Wow, that's a pretty good deal. I've been eyeing
Wow.
that Westinghouse thing. That's a pretty nifty radio, and that's only $10. Damn.
That little tiny thing in the middle, that black radio,
Yeah.
that's a FM only Granco.
Oh.
They're kind of unusual. Those
Is
are
that-
cheap
that
early
was-
FM radio.
Oh, okay. So it's speaker included with it, so it didn't require. It's,
Oh, yeah.
it's standalone.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
There's a lot of people that collect FM only radios. I actually know somebody that does that. So when I come across one, I give him a call or I send him an email and he gets all excited. Hey, you want to sell that? You know, kind of thing.
You actually have some neat stuff here. It's, that's a really good deal. Geez, I wonder if he sold them all. Even this clock radio is actually pretty. The Silvertone is actually pretty. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Well, actually, we should probably stop here because it is pushing 9 o'clock and it kept you guys on long enough.
That's an easy picture to remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Adrian, are you still on? Do I lose Adrian?
Yeah, I'm on.
Oh, I was wondering whether, just while I have you, is whether either for the next meeting or the meeting after, you wanted to have a little slot to do your little estate planning talk.
Yeah,
How about next meeting? Will that work? We can do this as a
Yeah.
prequel,
yeah, next Wednesday.
Yeah,
Let me just,
that would be the let me think, what date is it? 13th? Let's check my calendar here. It's the next meeting will be the 12th, April 12th. That's Titanic sinking day, isn't it? Or is that the 14th?
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, the 12th of April is fine.
That'd be great. What maybe we could do that, because I think, actually it'd be a little different twist on things, but actually it might be a good reminder for all of us. This is what you said, 20-30 minute talk on that and from your vintage electronics perspective. So we have a slant on that, and then we'll probably either pick up the rest of the pictures here. And we also
That would be great, because that would be excellent, because right now my plan is that, my wife just has all of your names. And so
My wife has
that's
a
my plan
garbage-
right now. Call these
garbage
guys.
truck
I'll
company
take the
name.
Chrysler.
Anyway, it's called estate planning, and I'm making it for collectors. It was written originally for model trains, then changed to ham radio, and really it affects everybody. So
Oh, yeah, I need a copy of the model train one too.
Well, that'd be great, AJ. I really appreciate that. I think it'll be, we'll use that, and then we'll continue on with the pictures here. Plus, looking ahead, if not the upcoming meeting, the following one, Greg has some great photos to share that were posted on the Wisconsin Antique Radio Club from the recent show. Was it last weekend or the weekend before?
It
Greg?
was this past Sunday.
Yeah, so there's some great shots. There was some neat stuff sold and some good pictures, so that'll be fun to do. But anyway, really appreciate that, Adrian. So I'm going to let you guys go.
All
I
right.
wish you guys a good 2 weeks. And expect to be talking to you over our reflector or by any other means.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
take care of yourself. Great seeing you guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Yeah,
You bet.
Thank you.
take care, everybody.
Good night.
Aye.
Good night from New York.